and welcome back to Go Baby Go TV. I'm Louie Hillman, joined by my partner, the Optimist guy, Bryan Setzler.
Good morning.
And Bryan, today we're talking about the F word. I'm not talking about the one that my 6-year-old dropped on us a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It caught my wife and I quite off guard.
Sure.
We're talking about the F word, fiduciary. This word has just been pasted over our industry over the last several years. We have the fiduciary standard. We have, TV commercials basically saying if you don't have a fiduciary, your financial advisor is not working in your best interest. Let's start with your thoughts on generally the growth of the word fiduciary as it relates to promoting financial services.
Well, I think at the beginning, it probably started off like anything with good intentions. Prior to that, people that sold securities were not technically supposed to or required to act in their client's best interest. They were entitled to act in their own best interest, which I never understood because I thought that what we were doing in the industry was to take an honest assessment of a client's financial situation, make appropriate recommendations that were appropriate and consistent with the client's objectives, and let the needs of the client dictate the products that were being recommended. But apparently there was a large percentage of the business that was not transacted that way. And so when you start thinking about it from a legal perspective, I think all this is cover in a way. So you've got stock brokers, that industry principally, to try to pull them kicking and screaming into what's called a fiduciary standard, which is a checkbox system to somehow provide cover for recommendations that were made to try to support the fact that those recommendations were in fact consistent with those clients' needs. And if you take it one step further, if you take a look at client complaints on broker check, I researched a broker the other day, and there were 79 complaints, and all but one, the complaint was an inappropriate recommendation of a particular product. All right. So that means what? Well, it means to me that what if 90% or more of all securities client complaints allege that the advisor that they were dealing with made an inappropriate recommendation that resulted in a claim? That means the errors and omissions company had to step in, or the broker dealer usually had to settle that claim. So if the client asserts that the advisor never should have recommended the security that was recommended for that client to purchase because it was not in the best interest of that client to buy it in the first place, they come up with a fiduciary standard. Well, the fiduciary standard essentially is a pro-diversified portfolio methodology. The more I think about it, what does that mean? Well, basically means that if you stay away from individual securities for the most part in your recommendations, and rather if you recommend institutionally actively managed portfolios in various mixtures, what is that? Just think of it as baskets of mutual funds and ETFs in different categories, fixed income categories and equity categories in some sort of a package. Well, if you sell those products on a fee basis, because there's no commission, there's a fee instead, presumably you're now acting in the best interest of a client because you did not make a recommendation as to whether they should purchase Tesla stock as an individual security or not. Rather, you made a recommendation to buy a portfolio, broadly diversified securities with no commission, but rather a fee. All right. So that sounds on the surface harmless. It sounds like that's better, isn't it? It's good that we recommend something that would make the risk that is being borne by the consumer to be less than it otherwise would be had you made a recommendation on individual stock selection yourself, right? But the problem with it is that there still is no way for the advisor to quantify the maximum risk, meaning the maximum loss a client could in fact sustain in a particular year. That's the shortcoming of it, Louis.
Yeah, and if you hold a securities license, you can advertise your services as a fiduciary standard, or you're providing in a fiduciary manner, acting in a fiduciary manner to your clients. The thing that, from my perspective, is an inherent problem with that is that there are a lot of investment-only advisors that do not incorporate insurance planning into their overall plan with their clients. And I've always wondered the question, how can you consider yourself a fiduciary, right? If you're only putting that client and their family into investments. What do you think about that?
Well, the problem has to do with the word. If you say the word fiduciary, the connotation of the word as received in the mind of the consumer is that you are a trustworthy person, you have my best interest at heart, right? What you wouldn't know if you were the consumer is that, are there other products that may in fact be commission-based products that provide better protection or better features that are actually more consistent with the overall needs of that client. The client would then lack the capacity to know that there's a whole nother family of product lines that might suit them better, but the fiduciary person is not allowed to sell them or recommend them to clients because there is the negative word called commission, which is not a negative word. It's just the way the products are constructed. Whether you call something a fee or a commission, you can call it whatever you want. It's money paid to the selling person, is it not? So if you take away both words, if you say we're not going to use fee anymore, and we're not going to use commission anymore, and then you say, well, what's the difference? This product pays a 6% amount of money over here, which is the commission product, which, by the way, Merrill Lynch won't let them sell because they know that if they have this 1.8% wrap fee that they get to charge every single year, that the firm makes more money by selling the fee on billions and billions of dollars under management. So if you think for a second that a fiduciary standard translates to lower cost being paid by the consumer, you are wrong.
Yeah, I think about long-term care insurance specifically, right? Whether somebody is acquiring it through a traditional long-term care policy or some asset-based or hybrid type product. As far as I'm aware, every long-term care insurance policy that exists in the marketplace is commission-based. So if you were operating a practice with no commission transactions, you are not able to offer your clients a solution for protecting against the risk of a long-term care event.
That's a good example.
While also claiming to be a fiduciary acting in their best interest. That's an inherent problem.
Well, I think it's overblown. I think that it's not necessarily better. Fiduciary standard does not mean the client's getting a better outcome. It's almost like medical care. Problem with our system there is you essentially have created an incentive to treat people. There's more money in the treating of people than the curing of people. Well, it's exactly the same in our business. No one actually measures the outcome. In other words, if I can think of a couple of good examples where I designed a buy-sell plan for two business owners. One owner dies. Okay. The insurance pays the other surviving partner, so he has enough money with which to buy out the wife of his brother, who's his partner. Writes a check to the wife. She's happy. Now he has 100% ownership of the business. He's happy. Now 15 years has gone by, more than that, 17. Businesses continue to grow and thrive and prosper. Everybody has good relationships in the family because of the buy-sell agreement that was done correctly and was funded correctly. My point is, that was the best possible outcome that you could ever have had. And so the way an advisor ought to look at it is, what's the best outcome? That's the best result for the consumer, is trying to make sure recommendations that are made are consistent with the best outcome. And I'm not convinced the fiduciary standard is always that.
Well, the same advice my wife and I gave to our 6-year-old: be careful when you hear the F word. As always, Brian, we appreciate your perspective. I'll be back next Monday to rev up your week. Turbocharge your sales. Make it a great day.